You, mortal, are you awake? My, but you did pick a curious place to try to grab 40 winks. This sylvan glade is a good ways off the beaten path, and isolated forests such as this are oft frequented by the fair folk. Why had some unscrupulous fay happened upon you, lying here helpless and asleep? They would have had no qualms about working some merry mischief upon you. Fortunately for you, Puck is many things, but never a poor host. So, will you do me the honor of spending this midsummer night conversing with me? My, well, you are taking this in stride. Commendable. Oh, but of course, you are under the delusion that this is not but a midsummer's night's dream. But you mortals do place too much faith in common sense. One would think that it might be wiser to trust in your actual senses, sight or hearing. But I suppose as long as you are amiable. Of course, I could do something to make you absolutely certain that I am very real. I could, for instance, weave such enchantments around you that when you awoke tomorrow, you would find that in place of your own head, there would be the head of some beast of the forest or field or farm. Perhaps a boar, for you are dangerously close to boring me. Or, better still, a donkey. Yes, it would be quite diverting to see you wake up with long, gangly ears and a prodigious snout upon your face. Of course, it would be a crude bit of enchantment, certainly, lacking the nuance and artistry of which I am capable of. But it would not be the first time that I made an ass out of someone. Literally or metaphorically. Good. Yes, my sentiments exactly. Best to make the most of this. If it is a dream, then why sit idly by when you could participate in the dream? If nothing else, you will have a remarkable dream to recall upon awaking. And if somehow the impossible should turn out to be oh so very probable, and you realize that you were in fact talking with a being of pure magic, then you can at least be happy in the knowledge that you seized the moment. Now, forgive my curiosity, mortal, but I have not taken the chance to introduce myself. You may call me Robin Goodfellow, if you wish. Many mortals do. It is that curious quirk that some mortals have. you like to name us fair folk titles that paint us as more benevolent. Perhaps in the hope that we will become more like these names. Well, while I am certainly no knave, my enemies and even my friends can attest that while I have been called many things over the years, good fellow is rarely the sentiment that is upon their lips. No, I prefer the name Puck, if it's all the same to you. Splendid. Now, come. Tell me, why is it that you decided to take a nap all the way out here? Do you not have someplace else more soft and protected to sleep? And what of all these books you have around you? You must be quite the scholar. Ah, I see you came out here to get a bit of work done. Yes, the forest is a delightfully tranquil place. Although, I would argue that it is not as conducive to work. What with the song of the cicadas, the lilting melody, the rhythm of the wind rustling through the leaves. Even with no actual magical enchantments in place, a forest like this can be so enchanting that it can be hard to keep your eyelids from growing oh so heavy. And before you know it, you are wrapped in the embrace of Morpheus. Well, what work was it that had you so passionate as to seek out a place like this where you could work uninterrupted? Are you perhaps a teacher with all those tomes? A historian? Or, better still for me, a playwright? Ah, well, that is merry news indeed. I simply adore plays. Candidly, I have acted from time to time as a bit of a muse to struggling playwrights. It is a role for which I am eminently qualified, as I am both exceptionally creative and entirely too amused with the sound of my own voice. But all jesting aside, I truly am quite the devotee of the theater. And there is such satisfaction that comes from helping writers to successfully turn a phrase. Although I must confess that my actions were not entirely altruistic, for once a story has been made manifest upon the page, then with any luck and a little bit of help, it may become enacted upon the stage. In what better place than the stage for a trickster shapeshifter such as myself to find fun and diversion? But, come, tell me, what type of play do you have in mind? What is it that you are working on? Ah, but that does sound ambitious. I must commend you. And how goes this work? That is quite understandable. Writing is a great undertaking, an incredible work of passion. And it is all too possible to be led astray upon that journey toward seeing your story finished. Yes. Oftentimes people take inspiration from their contemporaries. And while inspiration is a fine thing, one needs to take care that all they're doing is learning from what others have done instead of measuring their own story's merits against this already finished masterpiece. For comparison has ever been the greatest theft of joy. And perception is a funny thing. When you look at your own story, it is the flaws that stand out oh so vividly. Whereas when you look at the stories of those who you respect, they shine with a pristine perfection. But the truth that you must take to heart is that this lesson applies no matter who is doing the looking. These pristine masterpieces that you revere, when looked at by the eyes of their own creators, are riddled with flaws. But the truly great writers, sculptors, painters are able to appreciate the value of these flaws and understand their necessity, or better still, utilize them knowingly to make the story even more nuanced and rich. For the truth is that mortals do not understand perfection. Perfection as you know it is an alien thing, stark and bland, without character. No, you do not understand perfection because your perception is one of the most imperfect things of all. Don't believe me? Very well. Let's see. Take, for instance, the Parthenon of Athens, that great white marble temple built to honor the gods of the Greeks. Is it not remarkable in its construction? Truly, those artificers, engineers, master masons who labored upon it must have been divinely inspired by the very self-same gods in whose honor the temple was built. Well, what if I told you that that temple is actually incredibly imperfect? But knowingly so. Hard to imagine, isn't it? I mean, its lines are so straight. And yet, if you were to measure it, you would see what I mean. For these great architects recognized that such is the quirk of human perception, that there is an optical illusion. Consider the columns. Do they not seem delightfully equally proportioned from top to bottom, uniform in shape and diameter? Measured exactly and precisely. Well, the reality is quite different. For those pillars, were they designed solely by the law of the measurement of the ruler, of the foot and the inch and the yard. They would appear not straight, but instead would seem to taper toward the middle, not unlike the willowy waist of a maiden. And recognizing this optical illusion, the architects that crafted this masterpiece saw to it that the pillars swell in the center ever so slightly, just enough to counteract this curious quirk of perception. In truth, the whole structure has very few straight lines or true right angles. Instead, it is a delightful study of subtle curves and swells and dips, all designed such to appear perfection, to create the illusion of absolute, pristine exactness. And so you see, perfection doesn't come through the absence of imperfection, but through the understanding of imperfection and the skillful utilizing of that self-same imperfection. A lesson for your own literary endeavors. I do so hope that it helps. Your story interests me, mortal. You wish to know if there is any way that you can help me? Well, that is exceptionally kind of you, mortal. And while I could let my hubris get the better of me and say, what could a mortal offer one such as I will humor you. There is something that troubles me. For you see, a creation of mine has come back to haunt me. Allow me to explain. Some time ago, I made myself quite a merry flute. It was an idle thing, just something to create a bit of music, take part in some dancing and some diversion. And once I had entertained myself with it, I set it aside and forgot all about it. But now the gathering draws near, and that flute may be used against me. The gathering? I suppose you mortals have not heard of it. How to explain this? We beings of pure magic, the fair folk. Some mortals call us dark elves. Well, our true name is the third race. Yes. The children of Oberon. And it is Oberon, our Lord and Master, who many centuries ago grew angry at us and so banished us, bidding us dwell among mortals, that we might learn humility. Well, I learned many things, but humility was not among them. Mostly I learned that I simply enjoy being around you mortals, and want to spend all the time with you that I can. But now the gathering draws near, and Oberon is summoning all his wayward children back to oh-so-dreary Avalon. Yes, the isle from the legends of King Arthur, the myths of Britain. Well, it is a beautiful isle, certainly, but its beauty is unchanging. Even the most beautiful place in the world, when seen day after day, unending, with no variation, can grow piteously dull. And yet, while I would like to avoid the gathering, Puck is ever the life of the party, and I am not foolish enough to imagine that my absence would go unnoticed. So, I had thought that worst case scenario I would give Oberon a merry chase. Whether he came after me himself or sent some other immortal to try to bring me back to Avalon. But that flute that I created, as it was something born of my passion even in an idle moment, it contains a fragment of my magic, a sliver of my very being, and Oberon can use that flute to track me down, bind it to me through magic, and find me wherever I hide, no matter what guise I use to disguise myself. And so you see my problem, mortal. I've searched high and low for the flute, but can't find it. Either it is already in the hands of Oberon, a gift from one of my immortal brethren to get into his good graces, or whether Oberon himself suspected that I might be a no-show at the gathering and decided to take precautions. Well, either way, I am quite in a tricky situation. So, what would you suggest that I do? Really? Why, but that is audacious. Foolish, even. Borderline stupid. And yet possibly just stupid enough to work. Bribe Oberon, the Lord of Avalon, the master of the third race. Big Daddy Oberon is quite the character, but he's far from perfect. There are some pretty baubles, vessels of great magic that might please him such that it could buy me a few more centuries among immortals. Yes, it's worth a shot, regardless. I've already expended all my resources searching for the flute. I think it could be worthwhile to roll up my sleeves and take another crack at this from a different direction. I thank you, mortal. You have provided me not only with pleasing company and enjoyable conversation, but with valuable counsel. I would dearly like to do something for you. True, I did help you with your writing. Perhaps we will meet again, mortal, and I may be able to repay you. Time will tell. For now, I will weave such spells that you can drift back off to sleep and dream here for the rest of the night, safe from any threat, mortal, immortal, or animal. Of course, in the morning, you will have to decide, was this all but a dream, or something more? I like to believe that all mortals dream, yet not equally, for For some it's true, but slumber idly, viewing dreams as fleeting fiction, with hearts lacking in conviction, while others dream with open eyes, and labor to actualize creations that defy the odds, and wonders that chagrin the gods. But sleep ye now upon the green, peaceful and by all foes unseen, until the soft grey light of dawn chases the shadows from this lawn. For Robin's mischief knows no ends, and so this trickster onward wends. Now give me your hand, if we be friends, so that Puck might restore amends.